So that in itself is just a means of looking at a business in a pure monetary sense, not a marketing sense. I market out there, I get a customer, they're a treasure or in a void, and I plot them on a map, and I can see this happening. But how did you get them? If you look at the exact customers that fall into this cell, and you look at so in here you might find that these are, if I did a business case for a business-to-business organization, it might be these are solicitors employing 200 people. So this cell here, which has 100 customers, 1,000 prospects, spends £3,000 with me a year, and they're lawyers. I want more of those. Down here, you might well find that you get manufacturers, 10 employees, and they spend £50. How many of you run consumer brands with a returns policy? You have a returns policy for things people buy online. Yeah? What do you do? Sorry? Morrison's and grocers. Bit different there. They don't return very much there, do they? Doesn't tend to be a lot of returns. Anybody work for shirts or clothing or, yeah? And online sales, do you notice lots of returns coming back in? No? Charles Tyrwhitt. Anybody from Charles Tyrwhitt here? Charles Tyrwhitt run a 3-month returns policy. So you can buy 5 shirts for £100, or is it 4 shirts for £100 from Charles Tyrwhitt, and 3 months later you can send it back to them, and they'll replace them, or give you your money back. Because your online rights, your distance selling rights, are better than your rights in a retail shop in the high street. So what we're noticing in the consumer brands is lots of people are buying products online, particularly things like shirts, but even we recently bought a fridge from AO. We had to have it delivered 3 times because it got scratched when they were unpacking it on 2 occasions. If I'd scratched it getting out of the car, putting it in the house, it would have been my fault and the scratch would be there forever. But because they did it, they had to take it away and bring another one, and then take it away and bring another one. Okay, so what you'll find is that when people buy online, they're more prone to send things back to you. And what we've noticed over the years of analyzing and looking at customer data sets is that actually, the more that people are returning products happens in this segment of the market. Majority happens and you avoid customers. And you think, well, that doesn't matter. I don't want to avoid customers. I don't get avoid customers. Yeah? People think like that? I don't get avoid customers. You don't use... Who sacks customers? Who tells customers they are not required? Anybody here? Anybody written a letter to their customers saying, actually, please, can you take your business elsewhere? Anybody done that? Hands up, hands up. Yeah? No? 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay. We don't do that. Why don't we do that? Anyone hazard a guess why don't we do that? We don't like to. We don't want to say no to people. We want to help people. We want to sell them things. It's our job to sell them things. So we do. And the connection between selling something and the cost of servicing it are not connected. One's taken care of by a delivery and accounting function, and one's taken care of by a marketing and sales function. But what we see is that these people send more goods back. To such an extent, with one client, they were generating, on average, 45% worth of their business cost to serve was in this segment. And it was generating just 20% of the, 15% of the revenue. It was 3 times the cost of the revenue. Okay. Now, the reason I suggest that is not because these businesses are stupid. They're perfectly capable, strong businesses. But because they're not connecting these two things together, they're not seeing the connection. And what's that got to do with digital marketing? Anybody like to hazard a guess? What's that got to do with digital marketing? No? Okay. Digital marketing creates more customers in this sector than it does in that sector. So if we looked at the digital marketing strategies deployed by these clients, and this example here isn't a £10 client, this is a £200 million turnover business spending £20 million a year on marketing. So it's not a small account. But what happens is that you get marketing spent averagely, lots of customers being generated through the business, so they're being counted as their customers. I've done my job, I've got the response, I've got the order, they're in, I'm now going to nurture them and try and grow them. Who has a nurturing program for new customers? Hands up, nurturing program for new customers, where your job is to try and grow them so they become good customers? Yeah. These people don't move. So what we're seeing is that when you're signing a customer up from Google, PPC, SEO, they come on board, they take the offer, and they never come back again until you are cheapest on or first in line on Google next time round, or you have the best offer in the marketplace. Who works for an insurance company here? Yeah? What insurance company? Really shout out? I can't hear you. No, sorry. There's too much noise in there, I just can't hear. So if you looked at the insurance companies and go compare, so you've got compare the market, go compare, they can't make the winning of a business on go compare pay. It takes more than 2 years to make that company or that individual profitable. And what happens at the end of year one? Who uses Go Compare to get their insurance? Sorry.
Go and get a new quote.
That's exactly what happens. And who persuades them to go and get a new quote? Go Compare. Exactly right. So what happens is that what you've got is you've got somebody using a price comparison site, and they're fantastic. I use them myself, and they're brilliant. But at the end of the year, they do it again. Unless you're cheapest again, you don't get bought. And what's the percentage of people? So here's some research, Tesco versus the RAC. So two big brands. So Tesco run insurance, RAC run insurance. Tesco insurance model, cheapest. I want to be the cheapest in the marketplace, I'll save you money. 90% of their customers would leave them if they found the insurance cheaper elsewhere without ever giving Tesco a chance to beat the quote. Okay? So I'm attracting lots of customers around here through doing lots of good PPC, SEO, Go Compare type of marketing, and I'm getting lots of customers on board. But 90% of them would leave me if they could buy it cheaper elsewhere. So, at the other end of the market, you've got the RAC. 75% of their customers would stay with the RAC even though they could buy their insurance cheaper elsewhere, and they would ask the RAC if they could better their quote, and even if they said no, they'd still stay with them. Because the RAC never sold on price. It was sold on service. And the reason I'm making that story and extending that story is that comes down to average is over. So there's only two places you can be in the market, and if you follow a digital strategy, a significant digital strategy, you need to be in a market where you are going to be the cheapest. There is no other place for you to be. Really does bring it home. If you're not the cheapest, Amazon, Apple, Google, eBay will be eating your market every day of the year. So if you're not at the cheap end of the market, the only other place to be is at the expensive service end of the market. Tesco are currently in play for both ends of the market. They're trying to be Mr. Middle Ground. Aldi, Lidl are cutting out the bottom end of the market, and Waitrose are taking the upper end of the market. I didn't even read the Goldman Sachs report on Tesco's and Sainsbury's in the Times or Economist yesterday. No. They reckoned, not a good word to use, the report suggested that Tesco's and Sainsbury's would have to close at least 25% of their shops to get down to a proper business break-even model in the next 5 years, and certainly the next 10 years. That's 25% of a retail space that is currently standing at about 2,200 units for Tesco, and I think about 1,500 for Sainsbury's. It's a massive change, and it's coming to your business. Okay? So when I talk about the digital strategy, I'm talking about you must have a good view of the sort of clients you're going to be collecting for your business. So the digital strategy to me is lazy, and I don't mean that because you don't do great jobs. That's not what I mean by lazy. Ease of acquisition is the predominant thing that people have in their mind. So I want to make it easy to acquire, but I'm not really cared about the quality, because it doesn't matter to me. That belongs to the finance and distribution department. Anybody noticing that in their business? Anybody noticing it? Ivan's nodding his head at the front here. Anybody else noticing it or not? Am I talking nonsense to people? Anybody believe what I say? Hands up if you believe what I say. I don't. Okay. But we are noticing it with clients. We're noticing it with big clients, the insurance companies. We're noticing it with the big catalog companies, that if you're not cheapest, you are not going to get your business going in the future. You need to be either really cheap and really good at it, like AO, or you're going to be fantastic at service, like Waitrose and other brands around them. Okay? And that whole Pareto principle does extend into things you notice in the world economy at the moment. So in the UK, I've got a few stats here I picked up. Income tax. Who pays income tax? Yeah, income tax? Okay. Who pays 40%? Come on, you can stick your hand up. It's not very much anymore, is it? It's like 42 grand gets you 40% tax now. I said, my 21-year-old niece, she's got two things to look forward to: the big 3-0 and 40% tax. 55% of the tax take by HMRC is currently paid by the top 10%. The bottom 50% of the earners pay 10% of the tax take. So HMRC realized that, fundamentally, if you're going to get any money, you've got to get it from the upper end of the market, because there is nothing in the bottom end to take without putting people in dire straits. So, average income of the richest and the poorest. The richest 0.1% of the population average income is? Richest 0.1%. How much do they earn a year? Shout, come on. £1 million. The top 1% earn on average 271,000. You have to be in the top 10% to earn 80,000. So that's just going to continue to get exaggerated. The top 10% take home almost double what the bottom 50% do in total. So what I'm saying is that whole hollowing out of the middle is going to accelerate. And that's going to cause a lot of social change. It's going to cause a lot of pressure for us socially. But just like the tar puddle martyrs and the big marches and the Industrial Revolution, it will even itself out again over time. But it's going to be a massive change for marketeers over the next sort of 10 years. So, how are we going to cope with it? How are you going to cope with it when you get back to the office? So back in the office, what can you do to try and make sure you're not collecting too many of these people down in this sector and you're getting more in that sector? You have to aggregate data. What you've got is not enough. Okay? There's a lot of news media at the moment, and I talk about averages over. We average things against a one-dimensional view. So I was reading the paper this morning, and there was a lovely article in the Times that talked about, I'll be there in a second, give me 30 seconds, talked about what kind of pet you got determines what you are. YouGov have made all their research, all their poll research available to people. So if you like certain things, you're a certain type of person. They average it all out for you. So who likes rugby here? Who likes rugby? I'm a big rugby fan. Anybody else like rugby? Yeah? Well, according to YouGov, if you like rugby, you're a profile, a rugby type, you're male at 60 plus, worse still, you're Welsh, you're a bit right-wing, and your favorite film is Zulu. That's it. That's averaging. It doesn't give you a true picture. Do you realize the average person in the UK has 1.9 legs? It's true. It's a stat. It's meaningless. So you have to work in the real world. So what you've got is one view of the world. And out there are huge amounts of data that you can take. So whatever social results you're achieving, whatever you're using for your digital strategy, you need to be bringing in alternative sources of data. You need to be bringing in YouGov data, if that's suitable for you. You can bring in information from social media sites, provide information to people these days. There are various databases from Call Credit, Experian that are available to people. But you need to be aggregating multiple data sets together. You need to be taking your marketing data, your sales data, and your servicing data, and your accounting data, and bringing it together. Because if you don't do that, you're going to get a one-dimensional view of your marketing and what's working for you. Okay, but by aggregating data, creating a simple segment model like this, which is not difficult to do, it requires some time and some thought, but it's not difficult to do. We would call it money mapping, because money is what really matters to most businesses, to work out where your business is going to grow and develop in the future. Okay? So 2 takeaways from today are try and create an aggregate database of your customer in all its facets. Take your information and try and gather any information you can from alternative sources, from the internet, from commercially available sources, from wherever you can. Number 1, do that. And number 2, you should sack the bottom 25% of your customer base. Guaranteed they're costing you money. And they'll be costing you a lot of money. You just don't know it. But if you went back today and you took the bottom 25% of your customer base, and it's not a true representation, but it's as good as you can get today, and you sacked them, you would have a better business tomorrow. Because you would have more time to focus on bigger, better customers. Because your bottom 25% of your customers are taking 45% of your resource. So your call center's being occupied by dealing with people that won't spend any more money with you. Your department's being overrun by returns from people that actually will only order and return product. They don't actually spend lots of money. Okay? So the 2 takeaways are aggregate databases to create a single customer view and sack the bottom 25% of your customers. Okay? Guaranteed to work. That's the end of my presentation. I have nothing else to offer. If anybody wants to talk about it in more detail, we're not a million miles away, just over there, and happy to show how we develop those things for people. But all in all, it's about you having a couple of takeaways to apply to your business when you get back to the office tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.